everyone, and thanks for joining us here today for our teaser of our upcoming Ribbons and Bows Galore virtual event with instructor Donna McCauley. She's here today to show you a sneak peek of some of the things coming up for this great virtual class. The class will be on April 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I will put a few links in the comments so that you can sign up. And I think this is going to be an excellent class and some really fun designs. And Donna, are you ready to share with the students and future students what's to come?
I sure am. Hello, everybody. This is Donna McCauley, and welcome to the DM Quilting Studio. And we're sharing our space here today with Sarah in the air. So let's move some things over and take a look at what we have. I have right here, this is the instructions. And if you have a printed set of instructions or a download, it's the same thing. And there's 30 pages there. So if you have already purchased your pattern, great. This is going to be the class to go along with that pattern. And if you haven't, you might want to make sure you sign up. As part of the class, you will get a download of the pattern. And there's 30 pages here of instruction to complete the whole quiltlet. Now, I call it a quiltlet because it is just a small whole cloth quilt. It is 32 by 41 inches in size finish. So 1 yard of fabric is all that you need. 1 yard for the front, 1 yard for the back, and 1 yard for the batting. So that's really a great way to get started on a little bit bigger project if you're tired of working on little 12-inch squares and you want to move ahead. But the way this is set up, there's still sections, and I don't know how clearly you can see that on the camera, but all of these sections could be pulled out and used separately without being a whole quilt. There's also information in here about the templates that you'll use and the tools, what they are, why you use them, and how to do it. What we're going to do, this is going to be a 3-hour class, and it may not take all 3 hours, but the idea is I want to give you enough time and information so that you can actually mark it out. So this page here, it's almost like blueprints for your layout. I don't want to just leave you stranded out there trying to figure out what goes where and how far from the edge is this. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know. We have other pages here, and these are how to mark and place the different frames for some of the designs. We have in here all of your markings and everything you need. So it's very complete. Like I said, there's 30 pages. Each page tells you the instructions how to quilt the block unit that's up in the corner. Walks you through all of the different elements. It's nice and clear and easy to see and read. So I hope that you will get your fabric ready. If you already have your pattern, put it all together in your sandwich. Be ready to mark it out with me on April 7th, and we'll start doing some quilting. If you have not ordered your templates and your pattern, then you might want to do that now. So we have, let me pull this away and show you what some of the templates are. The main focus that you'll be using is the ribbons and bows and wreath combination set. Now here, this package has 4 different templates in it, and all of them, there's an option where you could use 1 or 2 of these two, but there's definitely 3, could be 4th one used, however we decide to go with that. But all of the templates are here. If you don't have the ribbon candy template that is stitched out right up in this area, so I use the 1 and 2 inch, the itty bitty ribbon candies. If you don't have those, then we'll talk about different options that you can use instead. So we just have lots and lots of activity in this. It isn't overwhelming. We also have information how you can put this together with multiples and create a bed-size quilt if you wanted to. Add some borders and increase the size however you want to. So this quiltlet is really an excellent way to start your centerpiece of a larger quilt. So here we have just a little bit of viewing of the actual quilt and some of the stitching that is done on it. I can't really turn it around. Let's see, rotate it a little bit, and maybe you can see the side. So from every direction, we're going to see something really unique and special in this, and you're going to have all of the instructions for every single block that is stitched. So here is one of the others. This one uses the 8.5 inch template, and then down here we have our 5.5 inch template. And so we have lots and lots of interest here and things that you can look at. Shall we do a little bit of stitching and see how these work?
Yes, yes.
Let's move it aside so we can get to the machine. And I may need to move the camera just a little bit.
And Donna, do you happen to know the finished size of this quiltlet when you're done?
32 by 41. So 1 yard of fabric is what you need.
Thank you.
So I'm going to have to adjust the camera just a little bit, so bear with me while we do that. Do you want to maybe take me in the back and show them the image there first?
Yeah, I'll pull something up out here on the screen in just a minute.
This whole project looks much more complicated than what it is. I actually have some folks that have purchased the pattern and couldn't wait for the class and went ahead and proceeded and just did a beautiful job. I'm going to just try and move the camera this way. So just bear with me a little bit and we'll get it situated.
And I'm showing everyone, so the ribbons and bows galore, after you see the main sign up, you'll have the option to support a variety of stores that are either in your area or elsewhere, and that's a great way to go. Right here, we can see part of the image. Let's see, some of the templates being used during the project, some of the products that you'll need, and this here is part of that beautiful quilt that Donna has already done in its one of its finished styles. And then Donna, are you all ready?
I'm ready. So thank you, Sarah, for showing that. This is the large size of the ribbons and bows template. And you can see this particular one will stitch out an 11.5 inch circular pattern. And there is an 8.5. And those might seem like odd sizes compared to what we're used to using, but they just seem to kind of work nicely together. And so I like to be able to incorporate into this 8.5-inch template, we have a 1/2-inch circle and a 1/4-inch circle. Right down here, we are also going to stitch in the center a 1-inch in diameter center circle. And of course, we have the easy access thread slot. Then we also have the 5.5-inch template. So all three of these, the 8.5, 11.5, and 5.5 will all create the same set of designs in just different sizes. And then we have the 11.5-inch wreath. Now that's one we're going to stitch with today, and it's only available in the one size. I just haven't gotten to a point where I needed a smaller one. So that's what we have for now. Let's put it on our fabric. I have used the 8-point crosshair marking square and marked for 8 rotations and placed a pin right in the center. I also have on this template stable tape on both the front and the back. We have our travel path here, so we don't really have an access slot like we have on the smaller templates because the whole foot fits in here. So let's position that on our circle or our pin. And right up here we have our vertical centering line. That's the one that we will align with our mark lines. So let me move over under the machine. I'm going to turn this around this way so you can see what I'm doing. If I have it in the back, you're not going to be able to tell where we're going. So I'm just going to lower my foot, and I don't have to really start in any particular place because the whole thing, the way we stitch it, it's going to create our design. All I have to worry about is that I am on my marked line and that I get that thread up and hang on to it. This is always my least fun part of the whole quilting process, is getting that thread started. So I'm going to come around and I'm just going to follow the edge of my template. That's going to look a little weird because of the shape we create in the beginning, but it really works out. I may need to turn this so you can see better. We'll try this. Sometimes when that template gets around in the back, you can't really see what's going on. Now I'm going to go on over to the edge and come back around. As long as I keep my foot connected to that edge, our stitch path is just the right size. We'll create our self circle there as we go. So now I will rotate my template. Let's turn it back around here. Here's where we stopped. Rotate the template right in that foot path and line up over here on my next marked line. And stitch my circle and come back out. Up and around. I'm going to be kind of careful going around these points. The foot will just gently work around it, but we don't need to go real hard with that. You don't have to force it. I'm going to stitch back over into the parking area and rotate my template again. Now I'm pivoting my fabric so you can see what I'm doing. Come back out. And back over to the edge. Sometimes I end up moving my fabric. So we will end up with a little bit of an extra second set of stitching on here. It's not going to matter because they're not real tight and tiny. And so it just works out nicely for you. Line up with my line again. So you can come all the way back out over to the B location if you like going that way better. Travel back down and realign. So let's go ahead and go on around. Make sure you stay lined up on your vertical mark. So we have, by having our circle there in that stitch path built in for us, we have the ability to rotate the template without having to try to turn everything and stitch around. It's kind of hard in some cases to have to manage to maneuver the template and the fabric and create a smooth, even circle. And so this takes the work out of it. You just stitch in the path and create your circle. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually just make the circle part and not even come out here for the ribbons. So once we're back over here, let's get this in thread. if you wanted to create some template design work here, this template would work for you because you have fairly decent size open areas. So that's always an option too. That's not something I did on the Ribbons and Bows Galore, but it's definitely something that could be done. Let's go ahead. So what I'm doing over here now, I'm going to turn my template enough where I can come along and join my circle go a little more, and then I'll go back and realign my template, and now come and stitch my pattern. This time, what I'm going to do is now stitch right back and stop on my marked line. I'm going to remove my template from around the foot and turn it over. Now put it back on the pin and get it back into position. Sometimes that's easier to say than do. This time I'm upside down, and so that makes it a little more challenging to see where my line is because it's on the upper side of my template. And so sometimes if you aren't looking straight down at it, you may be off of your alignment mark a little bit. So if you are ever using templates upside down, just remember that the light will shine through. When this is down next to the fabric, you're going to be just about as in line as you can get. But up here, you can actually be off your mark as much as 1/8 of an inch or more, depending on the thickness of your template. So I flip my template over, and I'm going to stitch the entire pattern again. And this is how I can make the little rosettes. Go all the way down, and I will go down to my circle and rotate. So this is just kind of a fun way that we can add some interest with these templates. If your circle isn't forming exactly perfectly, because sometimes that can happen, it's not anything to worry about, because as you make those multiple sets of stitches, you will be able to kind of straighten it out as you go. So we're using the same 8 alignment lines that we marked for our rotations. We turned our template over upside down, and now if we come too far right now, we'll actually come outside the foot. So I suggest that you stitch a little ways around that edge, then bring your template over, keeping the foot in that path, and line up that way. If you don't want a real bold center line, you don't have to go over it as many times as I am right here. What's really nice is this makes a big enough circle where we can actually stitch the 5.5 pattern inside and create a completely different look, all with inside that circle. Travel around, rotate, travel some more.
Hey, Donna, you're not using our 6-point crosshair ruler, are you, during this class? Or is it just 8-point style?
8-point.
Thank you.
Just the 8-point. I don't think we had the 6-point anywhere.
It wasn't listed on this class supply on the website, so I figured that was cool. But we had a couple questions come in, so I just wanted to cover that.
There may be, let me double check that, Sarah, and get back to you. There may be one area where we mark for 12 rotations, and that's where the 6 would come in. But I can't be positive without checking it. So this design that I'm stitching with this wreath, it is not actually part of the class. It's just an extra design that you can do with these templates, but it isn't part of the class. So here, I marked for 8 rotations. This could easily have been done with fewer. It wouldn't have to have the full 8. It just happened to be the marker that I grabbed first. Could do it with the 6 or the 5 and increase it however you want. But the way this one is, I just wanted 8 of those little rosettes around my circle. Oh dear, look what I did. I'm in the wrong place. I didn't check my alignment. I will remove those stitches after I get into the right place, and you'll never know that we boo-booed. I was so careful there while I was traveling my circle that I didn't rotate the template.
And Donna, it looks like, so that this is a 1-class series, right?
Yes.
A 1-class session on the 7th, right?
It's 1 class, and we set aside 3 hours for the class because there's quite a bit of information in the marking and the layout of it, and then we will stitch out many of the blocks. If we don't go the full 3 hours, then that's okay. But I didn't want to run short if we needed it.
Good. And it looks like, so what would you say maybe percentage-wise? How much of the quilt do you think will actually get quilted in the 3-hour session, do you think?
Well, that's interesting question. Probably, so many of the blocks are very similar. My main thing is I want to show you how you're going to create the blocks. Everyone works at a different pace, and so it's not necessarily a quilt along, although it could be. And so because of that, Sarah, that's kind of a hard question to answer.
Well, yeah, that totally makes sense. So you're going to be, going over the instructions and then giving all the students the tools they need to finish on their own. And since the blocks, like you said, have a lot of really similar motif, not so much motifs, but the process of creating them, you'll be able to show half of one, they'll be set to go the rest of the way on their own.
So they'll be pretty well ready to pick it up and finish.
And I'll also mention, I think I mentioned in the chat already, all students will have 30 days to re-watch the class. So when Donna says, a super helpful trick, you can always rewind, re-watch while you're working on your quilt lift.
That's right. So that's kind of a nice feature to be able to come back and watch certain parts of it again and again if that's what you want to do. So let's just take this off and take a quick little look at what we did here. So I have an area over here where I didn't rotate my template. So I'm going to use my thread eraser and just simply remove that error. So I cut the ends of those threads. I will lift them up out of my fabric and then bury them. I'm not going to actually cut them off and send them to the trash. I will place them inside my batting, but they are unstitched. Now, if I go ahead and I keep working and I think, oh, I'll come back and do that later, it's very likely that you could miss them and they end up showing as part of your quilt. So if you do make a mistake or something, get off track, or you don't like what's going on, the phone rang and you look to see who it is and you got away from the edge, all you have to do is this. Go ahead, open it back up, cut your threads in the middle part of it down here, and now these can be just buried with a needle. You also have to pull that bobbin thread up and do the same thing. Of course, by the time you open these stitches up, you've released the bobbin, but you still have to bring that thread up and deal with it. So that is gone. Isn't that kind of interesting how we have these little roses on the edges? Oh, look what happened. We missed one right there. We stopped too soon.
And that's the beauty with templates, right, Donna? No big deal. You can start it up and use your spacing gauge and finish it up if you needed to.
No big deal. We just have to figure out, are we right side up or right side down, and put our template back in place, line it up, and finish it up. Go back in, put our needle back down. So this is kind of the great thing with our ruler work. We can take it up and look at it. We can fix our boo-boos. We can add to it if we want more. It's just almost endless, all the options here. And with these templates, because they work nicely on both sides, you're not limited only to one design because they only go one way. You can flip them over, or you can use parts of them and they work the same. So now I'm going to just cut that thread, and we have added in that last little piece. So, shall we do something in the middle?
Yeah, it seems like it's just asking for something glorious to go in the center.
Well, we can use the smaller version and put it right in the center, put it on our pin, and line it up so it too has the vertical mark. There are some other diagonals down here, but I find that this one up here is really the primary one I use. In the center, these down here are helpful because they help me with my alignment marks at the center. It just kind of helps me keep going in the right direction. Pull that thread out. Go down into the parking area and bring up my bobbin thread. Hold on to those threads while we make a few stitches to just kind of come out. Lock them in. Now, there is an A and a B, and I went past my A over to my marked line, but I'm going to come back and come up along the A side and around. When we come back down along that B side, it's just going to take you right into the circle. So I will stitch back out to the point where my marked line is, and when I rotate the template, it will come down into the parking area. I can stitch on my A mark or come on around and stitch on the next one. I can skip one. Let's just do it that way. So I will stitch around and back and then up and around. And that forms my circle on the inside. It's a 1 inch in diameter circle. So it's not great big, but it just kind of creates a nice little center area there. And it curves right on around and takes us right back into that stitching. We can now go back and join up with the other one so that we can have a little heavier line. Come back to our marked line and turn our template. And we're skipping one and coming on around. We can even come all the way, skipping B and go around the A. Back around our circle and come to the mark line and stop. This looks kind of like a little propeller in here. Let's go ahead and strengthen up our circle just a little bit. And I think we'll come on around and let's flip our template over. So here we can remove it just like we did before off of our pin and use our thread slot to come out around both the tack and the sewing machine needle. And I'm going to cut these threads. and turn the template over. Slide it back into position and put it on the pin. This is sometimes you have to be a little careful there because it's kind of a small area. And so it's not so much that you are going to do damage, but just be careful maneuvering around that needle with that thread slot. You don't want to drop it too soon. Line it up just like before. So now this time, because we have our parking area over on our left, we have to stitch back to our mark line and rotate it the other direction. Back to our marked line. So those are really helpful because we use them not only for positioning the template, but also for where we need to stop with our needle. So we skipped one and came over to the next. So what's really nice, I think, what I appreciate for all of you is that with these virtual classes that we have going on, you can watch them for a whole 30 days and have that access anytime you want, whatever's convenient for you. You can actually work along and stop the video and catch up and repeat what we just did and then start the video again. So I think we've gone all the way around a couple of times with this. So I'm just going to cut it and we can see what we have. Move that foot out of the way. So can you see that? I wish I could show it to you without the chalk marks. It's a lot prettier that way. But my fabric on the back wouldn't help you any at all. And so unfortunately, we just have to look through those. So this is using two of the templates, the 5.5 inch ribbons and bows, and also the 11.5 ribbons and bows wreath. And this is what created the circle on the inside.
That looks so good, Donna. Someone had mentioned earlier it also made them think of crocuses, and I was like, yeah, it kind of does, just because they just stopped blooming here. So,
oh, that's right, huh?
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, lots of fun. I could see how I might have to do a little bit of template. I can see all kinds of places where I could come in and remove certain parts of my fabric and reveal some other colors. And, you know, we could have some variegated crocus, huh?
I know all the ones we have some all white, some all dark purple, and then we have the variegated ones that have the purple and the white. They're so nice to see.
Combination of all the colors, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, are there any questions here that anyone has posted, Sarah, that we need to maybe answer?
Well, I think most of them we either you answered as you went, or I just put in a couple quick comments. Mostly folks just wanted to know, which templates are being used, and I said, hey, it's on our sign up list. Is there any way you could maybe, do you have most of the items nearby you could just kind of show on the screen real quick as a visual for these folks?
Let me turn around backwards and reach that little tray.
Okay, nice.
So we looked at the ribbons and bows, and we also have some of the others here. What I want to tell you is that if you don't have all of these, if you have the ribbons and bows set, then you can do the majority of the quilt. We will have options for some other parts, like I said, in the ribbon candy area. Let me grab my pattern. In the ribbon candy area, we could actually use circles or something else like that that would work. We used all of those, the straightaway for a lot of the cross hatching and straight line marking, and for basting. If you don't know how to do that, I will be showing you that. Here are the two little ribbon candy templates, the 1 inch and the 2 inch. And those are a lot of fun to work with. Excuse me. We also have the small circles, but they are built into one of the templates. So those work. And a 1.5, excuse me, 1.5 inch circle that we did clamshells with. And so I'll show you a real neat way to do the clamshells that are going to come out perfect every time. Here is the 3 inch ribbon candy. Now, it isn't one that I used, but if you wanted to add some borders and extend the size of it in it all to make it a little bigger, or maybe make some changes to a few things, I'll show you how it works, because it's slightly different in the way it works from the little one. And there was a question about the crosshair marking square, and I want to check that real quick and see. It looks like we did use the 6-point crosshair marker. Okay, did you get that, Sarah?
I did. Right here. So you ended up using the 8-point and the 6-point crosshair ruler to do the entire project.
Yes, if you have them. If you don't, we can still do it. It's just a little more involved. These beautiful tools just make it so much easier. And then also to create the circular stitching, the circles on quilts, some different sizes, 6 and 6.5, 9, 9.5, 12, 12.5. So those are options also to do that round stitching. Another thing that I know that it isn't talked about a lot, but it is extremely helpful in your marking, and that's the Circle Works outer rim marker. You can actually create an 18-inch circular pattern with this one marker. The way it works, you place the pin through one of these holes, depending on the distance that you want, and then, should have done this before I took my pin out. Place it on our quilt project. Let's see what we need. So for a 13-inch circle would be in the hole there, but the pin's gone. And then here is a larger hole that we can insert our marking tool, and when we rotate, we create a circle. I don't have a pin in place anymore, so my circle isn't going to be real round, but you can see the idea there. And so that's really helpful when you're trying to determine some of your placements. And if you have this, we'll use that. If you have been looking at it and aren't sure about it, you might want to get it ordered. It's really useful in a lot of situations. You can use some of the Circles on Quilts templates and stitching line discs to do the same thing, but that is so much more accurate and easy to use.
And Donna, do you use that Circle Works outer rim tool in the pattern?
You know, I didn't specify it in the instructions, but if you have it, then I'll show you how to use it. If you don't have it, that's okay.
Okay, so if it's optional, we're not going to worry about it. And again, all the students, you know, you can watch the video again after the live broadcast. You have plenty of time to buy different items, maybe if you're missing some things from your collection. So there's no crazy rush. You don't have to go right away. And even sometimes watching the video gives you an opportunity to see what you really value for your collection. You can say, you know what, I want these 5 things, but you know what, one I don't need because I have an equivalent already. So either way, you don't have to have everything right away. So don't worry if you have stuff on order and it shows up 2 days after the live broadcast, because you will be able to watch it again.
So one thing I wanted to show you, and I don't know with the glare, it's white on white almost. Some of the instruction pages, we actually have information in here how you can increase the size of your quilt. Now this would make a lap size quilt up to 52 by 61 inches. And there are ways to add your borders and cornerstones to increase those sizes. Here is for a double side or double size larger quilt by 2 sets of borders. And then here we go into placement of what goes where. So it really is, like I said, there's 30 pages, I believe, of instructions, and it's very comprehensive. You even have some blueprints in there. So I hope that everyone will sign up and join me. If 3 hours is a little too much for you, then you don't have to be there with us live on the whole thing, but you'll have access to the information. So we are April 7th at 9 o'clock Pacific time in the morning, 9 a.m. And I think it's going to be fun. So I look forward to seeing everyone there. You too, Sarah.
Thank you. And we do have a variety of questions we will get to in the comment section later, because some of them are, I would recommend either email us at info@sewsteady.com or give us a call. You can see all that on our sewsteady.com website if you do have further questions. This is great, Donna. You're going to show us some really beautiful templates that can be so versatile. And we'll see you all, we hope, April 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific time for the live broadcast. I've put links in the comments, and thank you for joining us.
So, Sarah, before we take off, there's one quick comment that I want to make here. If you already have one of the smaller size crosshair markers, then that's okay. It'll work. I use the 12 point and the 12.5 inch, and also in some places just down to the small size. So whichever one you have, we can easily extend the lines out. So that doesn't mean you cannot do it if you have one size or the other. They both work the same way. So just one extra little note there. I don't want you to feel like you cannot complete it without having to order something.
And that's good advice. And again, during the course, you can, be able to watch that first live video, ask some questions during the live, and then decide if and what else you need to purchase to finish the project.
Perfect. Very good. And thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for everyone else asking questions. And as always, have fun and happy sewing.